Good evening. We are back to the Spirits book. We are studying still chapter 2 and Spirit Life. And we are in Choice of Trials that we started last week, and we still have some way to go. We stopped at question 260, and we're going to start on 261. It basically discusses how spirits back in the spiritual world participate or not, plan or not their next incarnation, and how they are able to choose what lies ahead for them. So that's the basic idea of this chapter. Okay, so Philip, you read for us?
Certainly. 261. In the course of the trials to which it must be subjected to reach perfection, does a spirit have to experience every sort of temptation? Must it go through all the circumstances that may stimulate pride, jealousy, greed, sensuality, and other similar sentiments? Of course not, because there are many spirits who from the outset follow a road that spares them the necessity of undergoing many of those trials. However, when they travel down the wrong road, they expose themselves to all the dangers of that road. A spirit, for instance, may ask for wealth, and that request may be granted. In that case, it may become greedy or wasteful, selfish or generous, make a noble use of its wealth, or waste it on meaningless sensual pursuits, depending on its character. But this does not imply that it is compelled to experience all those tendencies.
Okay, so this is a classical question, right? When we learn that we are eternal spirits, that we are always evolving, that we have to overcome our imperfections, we normally would ask, do we have to go through all the temptations? Do we have to go through all the challenges? It's like the question that is also asked, do we have to incarnate in all worlds? And the answer is no on both cases, right? There are trillions of worlds in the universe. We don't have trillions of incarnations until we reach perfection, I hope. So, you know, I once heard from someone, I don't remember whom, that a phrase that I like to repeat, that you know, the less evolved or imperfect spirit, not to use a worse word, do not learn even from their own mistakes. And an intelligent spirit learn from their own mistakes, and a genius learn from the mistakes of others. So, you know, it has nothing to do with spiritism, whoever told me this phrase or whoever I read, but, you know, in a sense, we can apply to this here. We don't need to go through all the struggles. If we can learn, seeing a loved one or someone next to us or someone, even our enemies, struggling, and we learn from their struggles and from their imperfections, and we exercise the practice of the challenges, we can evolve through love or through pain, right? Evolving through pain is when you make a mistake and you have to repair, and you repeat the mistake, and then you create a karma. Because when you make a mistake, you learn from it and you move forward, you don't create a karma. When you make a mistake, you don't learn from it and repeat it, that's when the karmas are created. So as we evolve, if we are able to learn to evolve through love, it is possible. Meaning we can learn from others through their struggles, what road not to choose, right? You don't need to to become a drug addict to know that addiction is a problem. You can see around, look around, see the people that struggle with it, learn from it, and convince yourself through any means that necessary that that's not the right path, that you are not going to follow that path, that even if you are offered that path, you are not going to choose that path because you know it leads to a problematic consequence. So, it's basically like that. So our speed of evolution depends on our ability to learning from our own mistakes, correct them, learning from the mistakes of others, change ourselves to the positive direction, and love one another, practice the golden rule, right? Evolve through love. We know the recipe. Can we do it? Unlikely, right? We're still going to make a lot of mistakes, and we will have to learn overcoming our imperfections. But we cannot say that it's not possible. It is possible, it is doable, and actually it's not that difficult. We just need to commit to it. The problem is to commit. Okay? Questions, comments here? Okay, next.
262. As a spirit is simple, unaware, and has no experience at birth, how can it intelligently choose an existence? And how can it be responsible for such a choice? God supplies what the spirit lacks due to inexperience by tracing out the road that it must follow, as you do for an infant in its cradle. God allows it to become the master of its choice little by little as its free will develops. And it is then that it often loses its way and takes the wrong road if it ignores the guidance of the good spirits who try their best to guide it. This is what is called the downfall of humanity. When a spirit has free will, does the choice of its corporal existence always depend solely on its own volition? Does God sometimes force this existence as an atonement? God is patient. God never rushes atonement. Nevertheless, God can impose an existence upon a spirit, sometimes when due to its ignorance or stubbornness, the spirit is incapable of distinguishing what would be most useful. And when God sees that such existence may help advance its purification and serve as an atonement.
Okay, first here, remember, God doesn't punish, God doesn't make us do anything. God created the perfect and natural laws, and we choose to follow the natural laws or deviate from the natural laws, and there are consequences. So God here, you can understand as the natural laws that are perfect and that were created by God. So when we are created, when we become an individual spirit, we go through the process of evolution through the mineral, vegetable, animal, and then we reach this stage of a spirit. We are an individual spirit with the evolutionary path ahead of us. We are simple and unaware, or simple and ignorant. Ignorant here in the sense that we don't know anything, right? Wow. Not in the offensive connotation. And when we are simple and unaware, our mistakes, again, have no consequences. And the Spirit say it very clear in the answer. The natural laws, God gives us the guidance. God is inside all of us. The guidance is imprinted in our conscience. As we evolve, we start to become, as they say here, masters of our choice as the free will develops. We are not given free will. It's not a gift. We develop free will as we evolve from being simple and unaware. And that's when we develop our free will and we start using, is when we may start making the wrong choices and create karma for us. So if we choose not to listen to the inspiration of our protecting spirits, our guardian angels, and choose our own path according to our own impulses, we may deviate from the divine law and create karmas and consequences. So when we deviate too much, the question A, when we deviate too much and we refuse to amend our ways, the natural laws may force us to a new incarnation with an atonement that is a consequence of our actions. We know that we have to atone for all our mistakes that were made, consciously made, right? So we know that killing is wrong. If we kill someone, we create a consequence for us. Like it or not, there is a consequence. A spirit that is in the beginning, in the first incarnation ever, if it fights with the next neighbor and kill the next neighbor because they are fighting for food, there is no karma there. There is no knowledge of this is wrong. It is an impulse. It is almost an instinct. So the karma is created when we are making mistakes based on the knowledge of what we are doing, okay? But as they say here, we are eternal spirits. So we are never going to receive more than we can handle. When we come to a new incarnation, we are going to, the challenges that will be in front of us in our incarnation are the challenges that we can deal with, that we can overcome. It's not going to be something that is more difficult than we can deal with, okay? Eric is asking a question here. All that is being discussed today is about the cases that are not on the conveyor belt of reincarnation. Actually, no, they are the regular cases of reincarnation. Special cases of reincarnation are the ones that have a large number of a number of spirits that take care of the incarnation of the special characteristics of the reincarnation. These are general reincarnations, the spirits that will reincarnate on the natural process of reincarnation, on the conveyor belt. Is the spirit can the spirit be aware of the process in this conveyor belt, as we call? Yes, he can. He can be aware of reincarnation and can participate in their choices. It will be a more limited option, because you don't really need a special. If you are coming on an individual mission, as I mentioned last week, not on a collective mission, your incarnation is just only a regular incarnation, and it will be taken care of by a group of spirits that is in charge of this normal process. Like all discarnations, all spirits returning to the spiritual world will have a team of spirits assisting the process. A regular team of spirits, like in the hospital, you go to a hospital with with a simple issue with appendicitis. You don't need the top surgeon of the hospital to take care of you, or a team of doctors to take care of you. A regular doctor specialized in the area can do the surgery without any major issue, right? If you have a case that is really case of a breakthrough medical case, then you have a reunion of spirits, of doctors surrounding you to study your case. These are the special cases of reincarnation. So in the general case, the spirits can take part in choosing their next incarnation. Yes, Eric, if they know and understand reincarnation, because I mentioned this the other day on our study. 35% of Americans believe in reincarnation, more or less, give or take, right? So 65% do not believe in reincarnation. They go back to the spiritual world, and the vast majority of them will continue not believing in reincarnation, and will continue with their, their life in the spiritual world and come to the next reincarnation without being part of it because they are not aware of the process. This 35% of spirits that believe in reincarnation, if they are interested and if they study and learn about reincarnation, then they'll be able to participate in their reincarnation plan, let's say. But one thing that is important to remember that we mentioned here also is that when we see and we are going to talk a little more about this later in these questions, when we see our possibilities in the spiritual world and we look what we can achieve if we make a very small effort in our next reincarnation, we are going to want much more than we can handle. That's what spirits tells us. So the spirits their role will be to control our impulses to have to face all the challenges that we have to face. It's like when you go to a counselor, when you are choosing what subjects you are going to study in college, and you want to finish all your credits in the first 2 years of college, and your counselor will tell you that's not going to work. You're going to fail in the vast majority of credits, and even the ones that you could pass, you are going to learn badly because you won't have time to dedicate. So dedicate yourself to the ones you can achieve, and that's how we come to a new incarnation. We are all greedy by nature. Yes, we are all greedy by nature. At this stage of evolution, yes, we want to achieve everything in the shortest possible time. We want to put all the responsibility on others for our own mistakes, and that's why we have the differences in the incarnated world of different of classes of wealth. Because if everyone was wealth enough not to have to work, the vast majority of us would not work, would not make any effort to progress. We need a challenge. At this stage of evolution, we still need the carrot in front of us to chase the progress. Otherwise, we are going to lay down and not do much of an effort. We have people that don't do an effort even if they need to. So we are, yes, at this stage of imperfection of our evolution, we are greedy, we are lazy, we are all of that in different aspects. I'm not saying that we are lazy in all aspects and we are greedy in all aspects, but in some aspects we still are. So that's the issue on our evolutionary path. Okay. Questions, comments here?
I'd like to make a comment. Is that
Sure, Paco. Go ahead.
Yeah, this karma, the issue of karma, as I see it, is actually a golden opportunity that I'm given in order to rectify my own mistakes.
Correct.
That's how I look at it.
Yes, exactly that.
So it's not really like I have to be afraid because this is going to happen to me. If I make a mistake, the law says that I'm responsible for everything I do. And since I'm responsible, consequences I will have to face a consequence. And that consequence in actuality, okay, it's a gift I'm getting in order to rectify myself.
It's an opportunity, yes.
Opportunity, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, you are right. But
I
again,
like to express it in much more positive sense because that's the way I look at it. Sometimes
you are right.
I grew up.
But
Tell the truth, it took me a while and I learned this here. Because all my life I thought of karma as something as a punishment. You're going to pay for that. That's a karma. I always thought of that. Not until I got to Spiritism that I learned that karma is something really positive. Because it's giving me the opportunity to rectify myself.
Yes.
And to grow and to continue growing.
Yes, but unfortunately, the majority of people, especially outside Spiritism, right? Even some Spiritists see karma as a punishment.
No, I did all my life.
Yeah.
No, I did all my life like that. Not until I got here that I started looking at all it. It's a perfect system. God created the law, and it's actually,
the law is perfect.
Yeah, the law is perfect. So, but I felt that way all my life. I have to say that. Okay.
Yeah, but also the concept that we can evolve through love is a concept not fully understood by the majority of people, including those in Spiritism, because in Spiritism, people learn about karma and then think that we have to suffer. You can only evolve through suffering. And no, you don't. You can evolve through love.
Love too.
Right?
Yeah.
But again, the physical body has its issues. We cannot overcome the natural decay of the physical body with all the problems that it brings. But how we look at it is what's going to make us find a better path for us in our spiritual journey.
Yeah. And even, João, you are old spirits, huh?
Yeah.
So
maybe ancient spirits.
Yeah, if you are here reincarnating, because we'll know that in conscious that why you are going through in some situations, because nothing happens by chance, as you always say. And the problem is why we're still doing wrong. In which point you start doing wrong if you were made imperfect? That's the question.
Normally, we start when we have our free will and we start making choices. And remember what we always say, that the majority of us are followers, right? And we are going to follow good examples and bad examples, right? So in our beginning of our evolutionary path, and we see today, right? You see children in school, right? They have a need to be, especially adolescents. They have a need to be accepted in a group. So they ended up joining a group, sometimes against their will. They end up doing things just to please the others in the group, just to be accepted. And we know that for all of us that went through this or have kids, and this, if you think of this in a more broad sense, and you go back to our beginning of our evolutionary path, we are surrounded. We start living in communities, right? Hunters and living as cavemen, and then starting grouping together. And in order to group together, to stay in the group, we may have make choices that were already against our nature. Again, I'm just discussing theories here, right? Because I don't know how we started, but my belief is that we chose some right roads and some wrong roads, right? So let's go a little bit further in the time of Jesus. The majority there in Jerusalem persecuting and throwing stones at Jesus and renegating him. Did all of them truly believe that he needed to be sacrificed and stoned, or they were just going with the crowd?
Yeah.
All the crowds will have their leaders, and the majority are just followers. They are there either for the fun or because they want to be seen as part of the group. And then, you end up creating karmas for you. Of course, the leaders will have much more responsibility because they were the ones inciting the crowd. But the followers, you cannot avoid the responsibility. If someone tells you to join a gang to rob a store, the leaders of the gang will be much more responsible than you. But if you go there and rob the store, you have your responsibility also. It was your choice. So my thinking is that that's how we end up making some of the wrong choices we made on our evolutionary path. I don't know if Elmo, you can add some thoughts here on the process.
I think it's the beauty of the. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think it's the beauty of the parable of the Mosaic Genesis. Problem is that we see that little parable as for the whole humanity and don't understand that it's for each one of us, it's for the individual. So at the moment that God or the natural laws took care of us, make all decisions for us, we're kind of in paradise. We didn't have an option of making mistakes. Once you are exposed to the ability of making mistakes, when we receive the seeds, the very little seeds of intelligence and of free will to start making decisions, and then we are faced temptations and you make choices. So you may just to go against the law and pick up an apple from the apple tree, and you may make the mistake to be just a follower of the one who make that choice. And that's when it always starts. The very little opportunity that we have to make choices, we could just obey and say, no, God said not to pick up that apple, I will leave it alone. Or let me challenge this law, let me see what happens. And then we're gonna share this mistake with others, and let's see if others wanna follow me and come along with me. That's the beauty of that parable that people think is for the humanity. Don't forget this for each one of us, and that's the genesis, the beginning of us making decisions and make responsible for that. And from that point on, we're gonna have to earn our life by the sweat of our brow.
Mm-hmm.
Adam and Eve. Yes. Thanks.
Thank you, Elmo.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Next one.
263. Do spirits immediately make their choices after death? No. Many think that their destiny is to suffer forever. You have already been told that this is an atonement.
Okay, so, we know that we spend some time in the spiritual world. So we are not going to make our choices immediately after death. Because depends on our stage where we are in the spiritual world. There are spirits that are not even aware that they're back in the spiritual world, that stay a long time amongst us here in the physical world, trying to to understand what's happening to them, right? We read about some of those, we encountered some of those in our mediumship meetings, spirits that are unaware that they have their physical body have died and they are back in the spiritual world. So how can they choose the next reincarnation if they haven't even acknowledged that they finished the previous one? A spirit like André Luiz at intermediate stage of evolvement, right? That takes some time to understand the whole process of the spiritual world, and then tells us all his experiences. He's staying there in the spiritual world for a long time. So how is he making choices for his next incarnation? He's making unconscious choices as he learns and evolves in the spiritual world, because that helps us progress. All the choices we are making in this incarnation will reflect in future reincarnations, not in the next one necessarily, some in the next one, some in future reincarnations. So we are building our future at all times. Now, conscious choices, we have to know that there is a reincarnation process, and second, we have to be able to prepare ourselves and to have an understanding of our objectives in a future life to make their choices. But that is, again, we are never going to say impossible, but that's very unlikely to happen right after death. Okay, next.
264. What determines a spirit's choice of the trials that it wants to endure? It chooses those which may help amend its faults, and at the same time help the spirit advance more quickly. With these goals in mind, some may impose a life of poverty and deprivation upon themselves to learn to bear them with courage. Others may wish to test their power to resist the temptations of fortune and power, which are much more dangerous because of the abuse they may entail and the vile passions that they may develop. Others may want to strengthen their good resolutions by struggling against the influence of vices.
Okay, so now here we're discussing spirits that are participating in their reincarnation plan, right? What trials the spirit is going to choose to endure. If it is a spirit that has a certain degree of evolution and the understanding of its own needs, it's going to choose the trials that will allow him or her to overcome the challenges, the imperfections that they have to deal with. So the example here, if you need to learn resignation, acceptance, patience, you may choose a life of poverty or in deprivation to face all those challenges and overcome those challenges. It doesn't mean that you are going to succeed. You may fail again. Remember, the missionaries of the light, we learn about the completers, right? The vast majority of us achieve 40 to 70% of what we are supposed to achieve in our incarnations. So we already bring more than we are going to able to deal with, in the sense that not because we can't, because we can, and we should all strive to achieve, to be completers, which is 100%, but the majority of us is going to achieve 40 to 70%. So knowing that, when we are able to discuss our next reincarnation, we will be able, if we are prepared and we have a good conversation and discussion with our spiritual guides, to make choices that we have more chance to succeed, right? Let's say, we'll use patience again. Let's say you need to learn to be patient, but you have zero patience. You are completely impatient. If you are going to be thrown in a situation where your patience will be tested hard, the chances of you failing are very big. So we are going to have to choose situations that will test our patience in a softer way for us to develop patience slowly, because we are not going to be able to transform ourselves from completely impatient to fully patient in one incarnation. So it's an example of the choices we have to make. We have to, and that's why we have the help of our spiritual guides and our guardian angel. They know better than us because they are our spiritual guide is more evolved than us. They know where we can and we cannot succeed. We have a chance. So they are going to help us, like the counselor guide at the college. They know better than the first year student that is just joining what are the challenges and what the student has to face. So they are going to direct us to the places that we have more chance to succeed, but the final choice is ours. Again, if we decide to face, the test of our patience in a place that is going to fully test our patience, eventually we're going to end up there, and probably we're going to fail. But yes, we have our free will to follow our choices. But if we listen to them, we are going to make better choices for ourselves. Let's say, you plan on having kids here, and you have to readjust with a couple of spirits that you choose to bring them as children. You're probably going to add a loved one also as a child to help, or as the partner to help you overcome these challenges. But if it is a challenge that we know we can deal with, we are going to be granted the opportunity. So we have to be assisted, but we have to make wise choices. It's on us, knowing that we cannot embrace the world. We are not going to be able to overcome all our imperfections in one incarnation. We're not going to become angels in one incarnation, reach perfection. So let us choose what can we deal with. Like the example, of exercise, learning patience, you start exercising it with strangers, because with strangers there is no personal relation. A stranger testing your patience is a good opportunity for you to exercise patience. With your direct family that you have very little patience to begin with, it's not the right way to begin exercising patience. You can and you should, but it's easier to start with strangers. So that's more or less how we are participating in the options of our trials. Okay. Any questions, comments here?
$265. While some spirits choose to expose themselves to vice to test their virtue, could others make a similar choice simply because they want to live immersed in their immoral tastes, completely free to yield to their sensual tendencies? Of course, this occurs, but only among people whose moral sense is imperfectly developed. In such cases, the required trial occurs spontaneously, and they are subjected to it for a longer period of time. Sooner or later, they understand that indulging in animal instincts leads to disastrous consequences, which they undergo during a period so long that it seems to be eternal. God sometimes leaves them in this state until they have fully grasped the gravity of their flaws and ask to be allowed to repair it by undergoing beneficial trials.
Okay. So the question here is, can spirits choose to expose themselves, to be born in the middle of a very problematic neighborhood, because they will be exposed to vices that they take pleasure in it. The Spirit says the part of the answer that is in italic, the required trial occurs spontaneously and they are subject to it for a longer period of time, is the key to this answer. We go back to the conveyor belt, right? We are going to be born where we have the best chance to succeed. We are going to be exposed to the challenges that will help us move forward. But many of us do not have the desire, the commitment, the understanding to make an effort to overcome the challenges. So we may fall back into our old tendencies and fail in an incarnation. We can start and leave one incarnation with very little progress, with almost no progress at all, because of our refusal to work on ourselves, to work on our imperfections, to try to improve. So what happens when we endure one incarnation that we make no progress theoretically, because there is always progress, even if we are learning how and what not to do, it's going to create a more difficult challenge next time. Because again, what we said here in the beginning, the more you know, the more responsible you are. So you come to an incarnation knowing what you have to do and you refuse to do it, you are going to create a more difficult consequence for you, more difficult future incarnation for you, because when you had it a little bit easier, you didn't take the opportunity, and then you are going to have a more difficult one, because eventually the suffering, because then you are evolving through pain and not through love, the suffering will make you re-evaluate your priorities and re-evaluate what you want to do, how you want to progress. And that's what the spirits are trying to tell us here, that yes, we can come to an incarnation and live exposed to the opportunities of act on our vices and completely fail to overcome them, and be surrounded by those that vibrate at the same level that we are, but we are creating more difficult consequences for ourselves. Okay. This next one is a very long one, Philip. You're ready?
I quit. 266. Is it not natural to choose the least painful trials? From your point of view, it would seem so, but not from that of the spirit. When it is free from the bonds of material existence, its illusions come to an end and it thinks differently. While living on earth and subject to the influence of physical ideas, human beings only see the painful aspect of the trials they must suffer. It therefore appears natural to them to choose the trials that are associated with material pleasure. When it returns to the spiritual life, it compares the unrefined and fleeting joy with the permanent happiness it occasionally catches a glimpse of, and then of what importance to the spirit are a few temporary hardships. A spirit may therefore choose the hardest trial and the most painful existence in hopes of reaching a happier state quicker. Just as a sick person often chooses the most unpleasant medicine or course of treatment in hopes of attaining a rapid cure. A person who seeks to leave behind an eternal legacy by discovering an unknown country does not pursue a smooth course. It takes the road that most likely will help it reach its goal, and dangers that may lie ahead do not deter it. Quite the contrary, it braves those dangers for the sake of the glory it will receive if it succeeds. The fact that we are free to choose our successive lives and the trials that we have to undergo ceases to appear strange when we consider that spirits, being free from matter, judge things differently. They perceive the ends that these trials are intended to meet, which are far more important than the fleeting gratifications found on earth. After each existence, they see the steps they have already accomplished and understand what they still need to do to reach the purity, and this clarity of vision helps them reach their goals. That is the reason why they willingly submit to the tribulations of physical life, requesting to be allowed to experience those that will aid them in advancing the farthest and the fastest. Considering all this, there is nothing surprising in a spirit choosing a hard or painful life. It knows that it cannot enjoy the supreme happiness it craves in its present state of imperfection. It catches glimpses of that happiness and it tries to earn its own improvement as the sole means of reaching that happiness. Don't we see examples of similar choices every day? Individuals working tirelessly to amass the wealth that will enable them to live in comfort. They are carrying out tasks that have been voluntarily assumed as the means of ensuring a more prosperous future. The soldier who sacrifices for the accomplishment of a perilous mission, the traveler who braves serious danger in the interest of science or their own fortune. These are examples of voluntary hardships taken on for the sake of the honor or profit that will result from their successful resolution. What will people do for glory? Is not every sort of competitive examination a trial to which people voluntarily submit in the hope of advancing in the career they have chosen? To reach a high position in science, art, or industry, a person must pass through all the lower degrees that lead up to it, and these constitute many trials. Spirit life models physical life, and it presents the same variations on a smaller scale. As in human life, we often choose the hardest conditions as a means of attaining the highest ends. Why would a discarnate spirit who sees farther than it did when it was in a physical body not choose a hard or painful existence if it may lead to eternal happiness? Those who believe that spirits will request to be princes and millionaires because they have the power to choose their lives are like the short-sighted who only see what they touch, or like greedy children who say that they would like to be pastry chefs or candy makers. A spirit, while incarnate, is like a traveler who sees neither the length nor the end of its road in the depths of a valley obscured by fog. When he has reached the top of the hill and the fog has cleared, his view comprises both the road he has traveled and that which still remains. He sees the point that he has to reach and the obstacles that he has to overcome in reaching it, and he is able to take measures for successfully accomplishing his journey. A spirit, while incarnated, is like the traveler at the foot of the hill when freed from his earthbound shackles. It is like the traveler who has reached the top of the hill. The aim of the traveler is to obtain rest after getting tired, while the aim of the spirit is to attain perfect happiness after experiencing trials and tribulations. Errant spirits say that they seek, study, and observe to choose wisely. We see similar examples in corporal life. We often spend years deciding which career to choose, a decision that we freely make because we consider it to be the one in which we are most likely to succeed. If we ultimately fail in the one we have chosen, we seek out another, and each career constitutes a phase or period of our lives. Is it not each day used by us to decide what we will do tomorrow? What do different physical lives mean for a spirit, if not simply transitional phases, periods, and days in comparison to its spirit life, which is its normal life? The corporal life is nothing more than transitory and temporary.
Thanks, Philip. Long comment by Kardec here, right? So the question has a very short answer from the spirits. Wouldn't the question by Kardec is, no, it was, right? Wouldn't it be easy to choose the least painful road, the easiest road? And the spirit says, the answer is very direct. From your point of view of incarnated human beings, yes, but not from the point of view of the spirit, because when we are free from the physical body and the struggles of the physical existence, the illusions come to an end and we see things differently. And then Kardec comments that when we are living on earth and we are constrained by our physical body, we have a limited vision. Even if we understand that we are eternal spirits, that we should strive to do good, to love one another, our vision and understanding is limited. We don't see much further, right? The example they give later here of a traveler, when you are incarnated, you are at the bottom of a hill, and when you go back to the spiritual world, you are at the top of the hill. When you see where you come from and the road ahead, it's a very good example. When the spirit is back in the spiritual world, it may, again, it's not all of them, it depends, it may have a broader view and a better understanding of their personal journey, understand their needs, look back and see their mistakes, and see what's the best path to continue the evolutionary road ahead. So that's what Kardec tries to explain to us here. Talking about the spiritual world, our experience in the spiritual world as an eye-opening experience for the spirit to be able to choose the path ahead. It's not all spirits, because many of spirits back in the spiritual world are immersed in their own personal worries, and they are unable to look further ahead. They only look back to what they left behind, the struggles, the anger, the differences. But the spirits that have a better understanding and a better level of evolution, a spirit that will go to an Otsolar type of colony and above, have the opportunity to analyze their previous existence or even previous existences and look what is best for them ahead, and they can plan for a better choice of trials to be able to overcome their still imperfect nature. Eric is asking, once you get conscious about your imperfections, can't you work on that in spiritual world? Yes, Do you need to reincarnate to work on your imperfections? Also, yes. So the general idea here is that you can learn in the spiritual world like you learn in college, but to put in practice what you have learned in college, you have to go and start working. To put in practice what you learn in the spiritual world, you have to put in practice in a new incarnation, because when we are here, we're surrounded by different spirits of different levels of evolution that will test us much more than when we are in the spiritual world, when we are surrounded by spirits that vibrate at the same level that we vibrate. There are much less differences in the spiritual world amongst the groups of spirits reunited than here in the physical world, when we have different orders of spirits all bundled together, that gives us opportunities to put in practice what we have learned in the spiritual world. Okay? Questions, comments here? Okay, we're not going to continue. We have 3 minutes left. We went through a long one. We still have some questions on choice of trials, and it's important for us to understand the concepts, but always to keep in mind that the knowledge, the moral and intellectual evolution of the spirit will help in the reincarnation plan. If the spirit is aware of reincarnation, it makes things much easier. Can we know if we participated in our reincarnation planning or not for this incarnation? Well, maybe in our dreams, in our experience in the spiritual world, in our meetings with our guardian angel, but consciously, it's unlikely that we'll know if we were a part of the plan in the spiritual world. So Eric asks a follow-up questions. Couldn't you work in different zones? Yes, André Luiz works in different, he goes to help spirits in the less evolved evolutionary plans. But the reincarnation is still a necessity, still, according to the divine laws, is still a necessity for us to really test our evolutionary achievements, because in the spiritual world, at a certain level, we don't have the physical needs associated with the physical body. That is an important part of what we need to overcome here in the physical world. So we work in different zones, in lower zones than we are in the spiritual world. We can, but that doesn't give us the full completion of the task. We have to really test it in a new reincarnation. Okay. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we have this weekend, because Sunday is a little bit different of what we normally have, right? So on Saturday, we have a lecture by Al Turi from the Spiritist Society Peace and Knowledge from Orlando, and he's going to talk about facing adversity, and based in the book After Death by Leon Denis, chapter 50. Okay, so this Saturday at 11 a.m. But you know that we are in the middle of the 23rd Spiritist week of the Tri-State, the third revelation. We have lectures that started last Sunday every day, few in English, many in Portuguese. So Sunday at our class will be the closing of the 23rd Spiritist week, with a lecture by Adriano Barbo, our good friend from Mount Vernon Spiritist Center, on Spiritism and the evolution of humanity. The lecture will be through StreamYard at the Tri-State Spiritist Federation website, but we will also use our Zoom. So the same way I share the book here, I will share the StreamYard broadcast to those that want to join us on Zoom. Okay, so we'll be here, but it's going to be a little bit different from what we had normally. So he is not going to be on our Zoom. He's going to be, because it's organized by the Tri-State Spiritist Federation, it's going to be through StreamYard of the Tri-State Spiritist Federation. So you can either join our Zoom or you can watch directly through StreamYard. There is the link on our email that I posted there on the tssfederation.org that you can go there and go directly to the StreamYard link. But anyway, we'll be here on Zoom also with the lecture. Okay, so that's this Sunday at 11 a.m. Spiritism and the Evolution of Humanity by Adriano Barbo. Okay, the book club that Daniela started, we started studying Renunciation. Next Wednesday, they are going to study chapter 4. Okay, for those that are not joining her, it's a very good opportunity to read and discuss a beautiful book by Emmanuel, the Spirit Emmanuel, through the psychography of Francisco Xavier on the story of Alcyone, the spirit that come from a much more evolved planet to incarnate here to help her loved ones. And that has one of the incarnations of Emmanuel as Father Damiano. Okay. So, Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Sure. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful to be together this evening for our study of the Spirit's book, the Chapter 6, Choice of Trials. We can learn from our mistakes while we are here, and by not repeating those mistakes, we can evolve. The other way is to evolve through love, and we can progress that way. We have our issues on the earth, physical issues that we have to contend with. So our challenges are probably perhaps much greater here than they will be in the spiritual world. However, each day we are creating our reality, we are creating our future. So it behooves us to use our time wisely on the earth so that we will also be able to go forward with greater ease in the spiritual world. We learn everywhere, we learn each day, we learn in all different ways. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the helpers, the healers, the directors and teachers. We are grateful for what we have learned, what we have received, and what we will continue to download throughout the week. We are grateful for our studies, and may we put into practice these studies through our discernment, serving others as we are able to do so. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, with our mindfulness, doing good on all levels, being of service, being mindful, being grateful for what we have received. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ to go with us as we return now in safety to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we continue to be blessed, and may we also remind ourselves to pray for those who are in need of help, in need of healing, who are going through stressful times of loss and suffering. We ask for the blessings for not only ourselves, but for others and family members. We close humbly now and remind ourselves to be going forth now as beacons of light. Go forth now in peace and in gratitude. So be it.